Clyde Lewis, and welcome to Ground Zero Behind the Scenes. Today we're on the street, and we're at Portland Preparedness Center, which is 72nd and Gleason. We decided to come here to test the water because apparently Michael Knight has a Geiger counter. We're going to check and see if there's any radiation in the water. Maybe you can get some soil samples. Who knows? We'll just see what we can do and what we'll find out. Join us. Welcome to Portland Preparedness Center.
That's cool, man. You got lots of
like
stuff.
my grandmother's basement, like my attic, you know, like grandma's attic.
He's got tons of stuff in there. That's awesome.
Hi, we're here with Michael Knight at Portland Preparedness Center, here to do an experiment. I've told you about it on the air. We were discussing the water situation here in Portland. Of course, the big rainfall we had recently, a lot of people have said that they've seen all kinds of strangeness in the water, anything from milky substances to something gummy people have been seeing in the water. In fact, we took some water. This is the rainwater that we took from Portland, and you notice how cloudy it is, how dark it is, and there's stuff. I mean, there are a few floaty things in there that I grabbed, but I want to do the comparison between water that was taken from Washington State. Now take a look at that water, and that water looks a lot cleaner.
That comes out of a bird bath 2 days ago, and it's just regular Washington rain. And
it looks very clean as opposed to this water that's not clean. So I wanted to do the experiment with the rainwater. And what exactly are we going to be doing with this Geiger counter? We have a Geiger counter here that you got especially for this experiment. So tell us about the Geiger counter, Michael.
Well, I want to start by saying that I'm just like any other consumer, a total layman about these things. And this is not scientific what we're doing. We're just testing as if we want to know what's going on. The Geiger counter has a little window in the front of it here, and that's what you point at whatever you're going to test. We're going to filter this water through a coffee filter to see, what happens after that. We're also going to check some dirt that we got from outside. And over here,
that's something very special. A very special package just came in the mail from Mr. Knight.
This is a uranium rock, and we're going to be able, we expect, to watch this Geiger counter basically go off the scale when it is put up against that, and it'll give us a comparison, which is totally unscientific, between that and this. And we'll be discussing what dose rates are, what dosimeters are, what internal ingestion of radiation actually causes, things of that nature.
Exactly, and we're going to be doing a great show on this coming up on the radio, so be sure to tune in for that. But in the meantime, we're going to start our experiments now, and it'll take a little time for us to do this, but with the help of editing and with the help of television, we'll be able to make this work. So right now we're going to start the process. So I guess we're going to start opening up the uranium.
Now this uranium came in by UPS this morning from the manufacturer of the Geiger counter, Major Industries up in Colorado. Now uranium is a naturally occurring radioactive material, and of course it's what they use in nuclear reactors like Fukushima. This one is officially safe for transport. They do it all the time. Personally, I feel a little nervous being around something that is so potentially lethal, but then again, hey, look, we got radioactive beans.
Pack them in your suitcase and you'll be stopped.
And what I'm going to do right now, since we've just opened it, and that's measuring what's being put out in the way of radiation or radioactivity by this particular little rock. It gives us a focal point, totally unscientific, but an understanding of what this particular unit can do. If I just point this away from the radioactive rock, we're getting a reading of 0.28 millirems an hour, which is actually above what I was getting previously, but now we're going to take it over to the radioactive rock, and it just zooms in there. We're up to 105, 185 millirems per hour, 222. This thing is going ballistic. But that's how a Geiger counter would warn you if you had one of these at home. It would suddenly begin to do this when the atmospheric radiation gets to a level that is really bad for you.
What we're going to use is a regular coffee maker to do so. We're going to put the filter in there, and then we're going to take the water and pour it directly into the filter. Remember I was talking about the milky area, the milky stuff? It's right there at the bottom, the sediment and the silt. I don't know what that milky white stuff is, but it's there. And of course, when we did the test before, we found that there was a little pollen. There's some pollen in there right there. You see the pollen. There's a little leaf in there. But the truth is there is that milky silt-looking type stuff that's in the bottom, and we don't know what that is, and it shows up on clothing, and a lot of people have been experiencing it, including Wes, and even Jordan, my producer, also experienced it.
Now we're back to a reading which is giving us the current millirems per hour, and from this coffee filter we're getting 0.015 millirems per hour. Now that compares to a 0.011 that I got on my atmospheric test when I first tried this unit. So there's no major increase there.
We're up to 20 now.
We're up to 20 now. And you can, with these units, set a timed interval, say 10 minutes, and it'll give you an average. So now we're up to 20.
23.
23. So there's definitely some difference.
30.
Yeah.
Wow. I was told when I was talking with Vince that 0.01 or 0.1 is normal.
Mm-hmm.
Anything above that is showing signs of radiation.
Right.
So we're at like 0.030. It's
Yeah.
gone up. It's just going up. It's not going fast like the uranium, but it is going up. We are seeing some increase in radiation on the water.
And what happens is over a period of time, see here we're back to 0.008, and then if I get much closer with this, 0.005. And this is why you need to get an average over a period of time.
So what we're seeing is some radiation in the water,
Yeah.
a little bit. It's a little bit above board. It's probably acceptable levels, not dangerous levels, but there are levels of radiation in the water. So we have to do an average of this to see. And as I said, it's not scientific because that's what you have to do, is you have to do an average test on each one, and because you have spikes and you have dips. And we're looking at about 30 tops at the moment. It shoots up to 30, and we haven't had a higher rating than 30 so far.
Now I think what we want to do next is test this Washington bird bath water. This is fresh out of a bird bath after rain a couple of days ago. So we'll put that through a coffee filter and see what happens.
So we filtered the water, tried it in the coffee maker, but we've moved it into the bowl, and we're now going to try and measure. This is the Washington water.
I'm just trying to get a backlight here to see if we can. And we're looking again at 0.008 millirems an hour, which is real clean.
Okay, what we're going to do, this is soil just outside of the Portland Preparedness Center. We're going to point the
and we're looking at 0.026 millirems an hour, which is a little bit up there, so to speak.
still going up too.
But what we know about acceptable levels, you could fit in a gnat's ear.
So we do have trace levels of radiation in the soils and in the water here in Portland.
We do.
And very less so in Washington, even though they said they found trace levels in Seattle. This water was taken from a mountainous area, so you know we're seeing the comparison here, trace levels of radiation. But like we've said before, we have to do several tests in order for this to be conclusive and scientific. What we're just doing is we're demonstrating how the Geiger counter works, and what we're seeing, though, which is remarkable, is trace levels of radiation in the soils here in Portland and in the water from the rain that happened a few days ago. So this is some amazing stuff.
And as the radiation gets worse, what you'll see happen is that this will really start to go ballistic on you, like it did with the radioactive uranium rock. Now, talking about the use of filters, have we got time to take the hood off a vehicle and test an air filter?
I don't know, we probably could if you want. We got a Geiger counter, we might as well. We can do whatever we want. We were at 26 millirems, it's dropped to 20. 17. It's still high. It's still relatively higher than the Washington water we tested. Now it's back to normal.
Okay, that's good enough of that. The purpose of that is simply because a filter is going to filter the air. Imagine a dust storm. You've got dust particles. With radioactivity, you've got atomic particles which are invisible, but they're there, and the filter will gather them all into one place. So this demonstration is all about that.
So there you have it. We have trace radiation here in Oregon in the soil and in the water, especially from the rainwater that fell the other day. It's not dangerous by any stretch of the imagination. However, we haven't been able to do several tests in order to determine what is normal. What is normal anyway?
What is normal? There are so many ways of measuring radiation, and we do know that after Fukushima, the so-called tolerable level was increased in the United States. What this indicates to me is that nobody really knows for certain how safe radiation is and at what level, low or high. We do know that at a high level there can be almost instant death, but exposure over time is something that's really got to be addressed and understood.
Were you surprised by the radiation levels we found in the Oregon water and the Oregon soil?
I certainly was surprised at the color of the water for one thing, but it is in a city. And yeah, the Washington water was perfectly clear, but that's only a small sample of water out of one bird bath in the whole of Washington.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I still say I was fascinated. I was very surprised at how high it was, relatively speaking. I'm not saying it was dangerous by any levels. I don't want to alarm people, but I want people to be aware that in the rain that just fell here in Oregon, we're seeing trace amounts of radiation. We were seeing the strange white particles in the water. We've analyzed it. We've come to the conclusion there was pollen, maybe some zinc was in the water, a little bit of aluminum. Otherwise, you see that we're about 0.30, 0.40 on the millirads for the soil and for the water here in Oregon. I'm Clyde Lewis with Michael Knight from Portland Preparedness Center, and this is Ground Zero Behind the Scenes.